Today is going to be a fun thrifting day. I'm going to take you guys along with me, so let's see what home decor we can find and give it a new look for spring. Oh my, look at these. These are really pretty. They are glass boots for $1.99. So that day they had a half off the yellow tag sale, so I was able to get these for $1 each. Now they are a little bit more for Christmas because they have the holly leaves at the top and then a bow in the front, but I think we can turn this into something for spring. First, I'm going to clean them really well with some Dawn Power Wash. And then I'll go over that and rinse them and dry them off thoroughly just to prep them for paint to make sure my paint adheres. I'll be using a chalk paint in the color Sage, which I think is perfect for spring. The key to this is to apply very thin coats and allow it to dry before you apply your second coat. This tends to really stick to glass very well, and this will take about 3 coats. Now you could paint them in different colors and have a variety of different ones, but I'm going to paint mine in the same sage color for both of the boots. Once the final coat of paint has dried, I want to bring out the detail of the bow at the bottom by using 2 coats of white chalk paint, and I'm going to do that for both of the boots. Now that the paint on the bow has dried, I want to make some polka dots, and a sweet viewer named Jackie told me to make the perfect small polka dots by using a Q-tip, and this worked out absolutely perfect. I'm going to do that for both of the boots. To cover up the holly leaves at the top, I'm going to use some Dollar Tree white grosgrain ribbon and hot glue that around both of these. I'm using a dry paintbrush to make sure I remove any of the glue strands. Look how adorable these are turning out. Now you could style these alone by themselves, or you could put some artificial flowers in there. That's what I'm going to do using these from Dollar Tree. Now there's some small white flowers and then some of these that look like mini snapdragons. The next item I found was this cute Farmhouse Box. I paid $9.99 for it. It reminds me of a bread box. I love the way it's shaped. However, I'm not too fond of the color. And when I looked on the bottom, I noticed that this actually came from Hobby Lobby, and its original price was $49.99, so I didn't feel too bad for paying $10 for it. Now, although I love this farmhouse design, I want to create something different, and I couldn't make up my mind exactly what I wanted to do, so I'm going to do this 2 different ways, and you guys can let me know which way you like the best. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the hinges from the door, and then I'm going to put these on a piece of painter's tape, sticky side up, and label them so I'll know exactly where they need to go back. And I'm also going to remove the handle and set that to the side. I lightly sanded over where the handle was to make sure that it was smooth. I originally wanted to take the metal section out so that I would be able to make this two-sided. However, I was afraid I was going to break the pieces of wood that were nailed on the back of the door, and then I wouldn't be able to reuse them. So I decided to use some fingernail polish remover to remove that painted stencil on the front, and it did take a little bit of elbow grease to get all of this removed. Once that's done, I'm going to go over it and clean it and rinse it off really thoroughly to make sure I remove any of that excess nail polish remover. But you could probably also use Goof Off for this. Now I'm going to tape off the center section to make sure that I don't get any paint on the metal part, and the easiest way to get the most crisp lines is to place your painter's tape down and then use a box cutter to cut along the inside edges. Now that everything is taped off and cleaned, I'm going to be using a chalk paint in the color Adirondack and a chip brush, and you can find these at the dollar store. I want some of that dark wood to peek through, so I want it to have a nice worn, distressed look. I'm going to go over the entire door and the box itself with just one coat, but you can make it as light or as dark as you like. And don't forget to get those outside edges and the handle. Since the door is recessed a bit, I decided to paint the inside left and right to make sure that everything looks cohesive. In case I decide to use this as a bread box, I'm using some shelf liner, and I'm going to cut that down to size to be able to place in the bottom of this. And I'm using one of those Dollar Tree rotary blades to cut this for the width and the length. I'm also going to make sure to paint the back side of the door using that same chip brush. And for the edges right there at the metal, since I didn't tape the back side off, I'll just use a smaller brush to get those details. After a few hours, and I know that the paint is dry, I'm going to take some clear sealing wax and paint this on the entire piece, but really making sure that I get the edges where the door rubs up against the piece so it won't wear my paint off as I'm opening and closing the door. Then you take a lint-free cloth and kind of blend it in and remove any of the excess. And don't forget to get the door itself, especially those outside edges. You can remove your painter's tape while the paint is still wet. I like to wait for mine to dry. Look how crisp those lines are. Now I'm going to go ahead and replace my hardware and my handle back on there so that once I get done with the front of this, I can put it back on the box. So like I said in the beginning of the project, there was two different ways I wanted to do this, and I'm going to show you both ways, and you guys let me know which way you like best. I'm going to measure the inside of that metal piece, and then using this distressed floral scrapbook paper, and you can find this at Hobby Lobby, I'm going to cut that down to size. You can then attach this using a layer of Mod Podge underneath to attach the scrapbook paper to the metal, and then put a layer of Mod Podge on top of that to seal it in, and this would make a beautiful distressed, like shabby chic box. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of it this way and then show you the other idea that I had for the front of this. Using my Cricut machine, I created a decal to go on the front of the metal piece, so you guys let me know which way you like it best. The scrapbook paper option is certainly something for everyone, and you don't have to have a Cricut to create any kind of decals for the front. Today's video is part of a thrift flip collab with my new friend Donna at the Creole Crafter. She does easy, affordable farmhouse, shabby chic, and vintage decor DIYs. If you're looking for more thrift flip inspiration, when you're finished with my video, please go over to her channel. I will have it linked in my description box below. I know you're going to love her as much as I do. If you're coming over from Donna's channel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here, and I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video if you like what you see. Another affordable way to decorate is to use books. I like to find books that have hardcovers because they're much easier to redo. The thrift store usually has a variety of books. I like to get them in different sizes and thickness, but if you can't find any books at your local thrift store, the Dollar Tree also carries hardback books. I'm going to show you two different ways that you can customize these to fit your decor in your home. For the smaller book, it has a blue binding, and I use that as my inspiration. I'm going to go ahead and place some painter's tape on each side and wrap it around the inside of the cover. I'm going to be painting mine with a chalk paint in the color Sage, and it will take a couple of coats to really cover up that dark blue. Make sure it has a clean, finished look. Don't forget to get the inside binding at the top and the bottom. Now, I allowed my paint to dry, but you could remove the painter's tape while it's still wet. It's going to give you that gorgeous crisp line. You can leave it just like this, but I want to take some of Dollar Tree's gold flower rub-on transfers to apply to this book. If you have never used their rub-on transfers, you cut out the design that you want to use, and then you peel that back layer off, place the design onto your project, and the plastic piece will be at the top. Then you'll use something flat to go over it, and you may have to go over it several times to make sure that the transfer adheres to your project. Then you peel that plastic piece off of the top and reveal your gorgeous design. If you're using the Dollar Tree transfers and the image is very small, you can place a piece of painter's tape over top of that to hold it in place, and use your scraper over top of the painter's tape. To prevent your image from coming off of the book, you can add a thin layer of Mod Podge over top of that. For the second book, I already like the color of it. However, I do want to cover up the lettering on the binding. So I'm going to add 2 layers of white acrylic paint, and I'm also going to paint about 1/4 of the width along each side, and I'm going to let that dry because I'm going to cover up the other 3/4 of the front and the back of the book with something else. So once it has completely dried from the paint, you can already see the paint line. I'm going to take a layer of Mod Podge and add it on the section that I did not paint. So I am going to do that on both the front and the back, and it's super easy. Just add a nice thin layer and then open up your book flat to paint the other side, and let it dry thoroughly before you add your scrapbook paper to it. Use whatever scrapbook paper you like. I'm currently semi-obsessed with this floral distressed paper that you can find at Hobby Lobby. I love that it has a vintage look, and it also has some beautiful spring colors. I chose this particular design, and I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to use the iron method. You just place your scrapbook paper on top of your book, then a piece of parchment paper, and then using an iron set on about 365, go over the scrapbook paper just long enough for it to heat up that Mod Podge and seal your scrapbook paper to your book. I will do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to go around the edges and fold the excess paper over to create a crease, and then using some sandpaper go in one direction to remove that excess paper. Now mine's pretty thick, so I do have to do this twice. I will continue to do that around the entire book. Now you could leave it just like this. It's gorgeous, but I do want to add a little bit something extra in the front, and that is this burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm going to hot glue the ends down to the inside of the front of the book cover and add a little bit of hot glue in the middle on the front. Sometimes while thrifting, you get really lucky and you find something unique. That's what I found in this piece. It's all metal and it has glass in the sides and the front. It's pretty heavy. It looks like it may hold a candle on the inside. And the back side has some hooks where you could hang it up outside. I've never seen anything like this before, so if you guys know exactly what this is, please let me know in the comments down below. I like that it looks very vintage. It looks like it has been previously painted over, and I even like the colors of it, including that rust that's all over the outside. It just gives it that nice aged look. So there's not a lot that I want to do to this piece to change it, but I do need to clean it really thoroughly. I'm going to use a hard bristled brush and some Dawn Power Wash. I originally started with the bristle brush on the outside, and it was kind of peeling up some of that paint. So I just went over it with a power wash and a cloth to remove all of that dirt and grime, and then use the brush down in between where the glass sits. And of course, the more I cleaned it, the more dust, debris, and rust kind of fell off of it. So I'm going to vacuum all of that up and wipe the outside as well, and take that brush and go over it and kind of knock any of the loose paint off. So once I have all of that cleaned up, it is time to work on these glass pieces. I'm going to use Dawn Power Wash on both sides to really remove all of that grime, and they were really, really dirty. And then I'm going to go back over it and remove the extra Dawn just to make sure it's kind of nice and dry. Then I'll go back over it again with some Windex to remove any of the streaks, and it's just going to give me a perfectly clean glass on both sides. Then I can place the glass back inside and decorate it. I'm going to decorate mine with a battery operated candle only because it has the glass and it has a lid, and I wasn't too sure how it could breathe with a regular candle. So I'm going to place that in the center, and then I have a bundle of roses that I'm just going to put off to the side, and I'm in love with this piece. I think it's gorgeous, and I would love to know what you guys think. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video. If you have a favorite, let me know in the comments section down below. I always love to know which one is your favorite. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I will see you guys next time.